Hi everybody and welcome back to Teachers Talk Money, the channel where I help teachers master their money in order to give back to themselves. So a little known fact about this channel is that before I started a YouTube channel, I thought that I wanted to do a podcast. And this is something I still might be interested in doing, but for the most part, I found out that I really enjoyed making videos a lot more, and that the content was so much more easily accessible when there is a visual portion to it. So I decided not to do a podcast and instead I have my channel here for you. But while I was recording podcast episodes, I did a couple of really awesome interviews with some of my teacher friends that I feel like were so enlightening and so helpful just to kind of understand how practically teachers were managing their money. So I still wanted to post the audio of these interviews. I think you guys are going to find them very, very valuable. I'll be posting one today and one Tuesday a week from today. And I'd like to do more of these in the future, possibly as video interviews. So comment down below if that's something that you would get value from. But for today's interview, I'm super excited because my best friend of many, many years, Sarah, I interviewed her for the podcast and we talked about so many awesome things. We talked about what it's like to pay off debt aggressively during your first year teaching, which is something that both she and I did. She gave an awesome perspective of a first year teacher. She talked about her coaching position and her work over the summer, as well as got into very specific numbers about her salary, what she made with her side jobs, how much debt she accrued from student loans and personal loans and her car loan, and just all the ins and outs of managing finances while being a public school teacher in Virginia where she teaches. So without further ado, please enjoy this interview with Sarah. Hey Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thrilled to have you. So today I wanted to focus our conversation on paying off debt aggressively during your first year teaching, because that's something both you and I have done / are doing in your case.
Yes.
So let's start by talking about your base salary. How much do you earn for that and how much do you earn in addition to that?
Okay, so like Rachel, I am a English teacher, and I make $55,000 per year. That's my base salary. I also am coaching a winter sport. I'm coaching the swim team, and so I'm estimating, it depends on taxes, the stipend, but I'm estimating I'm going to take home around $1,500 from that, so not too much money, but I'm a little bit there. And then I also, my summer plans are a little bit up in the air. I'm used to making $6,000 to $8,000 in a summer. I don't think I'm going to make that much. So, but I can probably comfortably say I'll make $1,000 to $3,000 additional dollars on top of that.
So the 55, that is your first year teaching salary because you came in with your master's,
yes,
correct? And what do you do over the summer for work?
So I used to coach a summer swim team. And lifeguard, those were the days. And so I used to be able to work a lot of hours all the time, make a lot of money that way. And that was like fun money too, which is different than teaching money. So this summer I'm hoping to do something in the swimming world, but not as big of a commitment as coaching.
Awesome. So how much debt did you start with when you graduated, and how much debt do you currently have?
So I was lucky enough to not graduate with any debt from undergrad, but then I went to grad school and did a year-long master's program, and I took out a loan for $15,000. However, I was not able to log in or find or even know what type of loan because my mom had taken it out for me. So it wasn't until that following summer after I'd finished grad school that I saw the loan, and by that time it was almost $700 already had accumulated in interest, which was very it's not that much money, but seeing oh my god,
the heart palpitations.
Yes. So that's my student loan debt. That has a 6.6% interest rate, so it's pretty high. It's not extremely high, but it's a pretty high interest rate. I also have a car loan. I got a car this summer for $6,500. The car was a little less than that, but we rolled all the aspects of the car into the loan. That has a 1% interest rate.
Oh,
which
yes,
is
honey.
awesome. So over the life of the car loan, I will pay an additional $300.
Worth
interest.
it. Worth
yes.
it.
So that one I'm not worried about. Making minimum payments on that one. And then my brother gave me a loan for $4,300. That has no interest. Mm-hmm. And then my boyfriend, Alec, that debt is interesting because we moved in together. So he paid the first 2 months of rent. And he also, over the whole course of our relationship that year when I was student teaching, we would do things and he'd be like, just pay me back after you have a job.
And he was writing it all down,
he was writing it all down.
That's what Alec is like.
Yes. And I probably would have done things differently in retrospect because then I was like, yeah, when I do have a real job, I will be able to pay you back. And then now I'm like, I owe you $3,000. So in total, I have $29,846.
Awesome. And what have you paid so far?
I've paid mostly student loan payments. I'm still in my grace period for that, actually. And I pay Alec a small amount each month just to let him know, like, I'm not going to dump him and run away with his money.
That might actually be a good debt payoff strategy.
Dumping and running away with the money. Yeah. And I make minimum payments on the car loan, which is $100 a month, so the car loan is very manageable.
Yeah, and with the 1%, you don't have to worry about it as much.
Yes. So in total, I've paid $4,731 in debt since August.
Awesome.
So that's,
it's
I'm
amazing.
proud of that.
So you have about 25,000 left then.
Yes.
So can I ask, how did you manage to do undergrad debt free? What did that look like?
A lot of that goes to my mom being awesome. So my older brother Luke, he got a scholarship that paid for 2 out of 4 years of college. And so when he graduated debt free, I think it really inspired her to try to get the rest of us to be able to graduate debt free. So she really helped me a lot with that, and I'm very lucky that she had that goal in mind, and she ended up actually accumulating a lot of credit card debt and trying to get me to not have it. In retrospect, I wish that the cookie hadn't crumbled that way.
Right.
But I also worked 3 jobs.
Right.
I worked 3 jobs, and I had a summer job, like I said, with coaching and lifeguarding. I think there was one summer where I made $10,000 in 3 months.
Wow.
I just being able, I was working 5 a.m. to 9 p.m.
I remember.
Oh yeah, you remember. And so I had a summer job where I was making more money than most college kids would be making, with lots of, that was not a cushy job though. That was a lot of work. So that also allowed me to be able to, when we lived at the apartment together, save up my rent, do all of that. My summer money helped me a lot.
That is awesome.
I also got scholarships. I wrote I applied for maybe 50 scholarships. Most of them merit-based. If you're listening and you're thinking about applying for scholarships, I always had that thought of I'll never get this. I'm one person in the sea of so many. And I wish I had calculated the numbers. I got at least, this is a big factor in me being able to graduate undergrad debt-free. My senior year, I got around $14,000 in scholarships. My study abroad. So my study abroad, also, I got a lot of that paid for just for writing a 250-word essay.
That's not even an essay.
Yeah. So I think I got the Dean Senior Scholarship. I got all of these merit-based things that I'm so blessed. And I don't even think that I'm an amazing writer. I think everybody is thinks that they're not going to get those scholarships, and then not enough people apply, and they have all of this money that they can give out. What I learned from that experience is that those colleges our English department wants to give out money. Yes. They have so much money sitting around. And when I would turn in those scholarships, they tell me, oh, here's another one. No one applies for these. Please take this money. So that helped a lot. I ended up not having to take out a loan my senior year because of that.
Yeah, a lot of financial people giving advice to kids in undergrad say apply for scholarships like it is your job, like it's your part-time job or your full-time job, whatever you have the time for, and you will get that return on investment. And then another thing I'd like to point out is that you went to an in-state
Yes.
university.
Oh, yeah, that too.
So that's a huge help in all of this as well.
So I ended up actually making the decision to go to Maryland because of money. I'd gotten into Hopkins. I would have to do work study, and it was like $60,000 to go. So
I also am of the opinion that work study sucks for most people and is not actually the best option. Yeah. So what's your current debt payoff strategy? Are you doing the debt snowball, debt avalanche, or kind of your own concoction of things?
So I'm doing the debt avalanche method because I have so much of my debt doesn't have interest. I'm very blessed with that. Like having my brother, and I have a good relationship with my brother as well. My mom and I have talked about ways that she can help me pay my brother as well. So I'm very lucky that I have so many loans without interest. And then the car loan, like I said before, I'm not super worried about. I think that was a really good financial decision, actually. Yeah. So the student loan is my main priority. I'm attacking that. I'm putting most of my money towards that. So I make the minimum car payment, which again is $100 a month, and then I pay around $700 for towards my student loans per month. And what I do is I pay it biweekly to try to curb the interest. So instead of me just at the end of every month paying the $700, I'll split, I'll do 300 something at the beginning of the month, and I do 300 something at the second Friday. And it really helps because with that 6% interest, I mean, if I had a 3 or 4% interest rate, I could get out of debt a lot faster. Like that 6% interest rate kicks my butt, and you can go on, I'll log on to look at my student loans and I'll be like, man, and especially in the beginning, it's like, this is me buying lunch every day. This is me and now it's like more like this is me buying a coffee every day, but still like watching that interest.
The latte factor.
Yes. Yeah.
I will say, it is so hard watching that, but I feel like you will never get into credit card debt because that would be more like 9% or 10% or 17%.
Even sometimes like 20% if you're really,
That's right. So I'm glad that you'll never get into credit card debt because you're freaking out about 6% interest rate. Some people would be praising the Lord to get 6%. I know. But I do know how it feels because I had low interest rates too, around like 4 to 5% on my loans, and I was still like, I need these out of my life immediately. I want to note for our followers that you paying off your loans bi-weekly is such a testament to your planning, because I did that because I get paid every other week. So I just did it by paycheck.
Paid monthly.
Exactly. Yeah, so you are actually doing something a little bit harder by doing that.
Yes, it does require me to have the like emotional moment of having to go in and look at my student loan, like, and see all the lattes that twice a month instead of once a month. But yes, it also requires that I in my planner make a note, take a step out of my day. Sometimes I'll forget to do it, but I have been pretty consistent with that.
Yeah.
Also, not only is the interest rate annoying, it's the fact that the interest rate, I mean, there's no way around the fact that I should be attacking the student loan first. Like, that's how I feel. But I also know I don't like owing my boyfriend money. I mean, I think we're going to stay together, and I obviously will pay him back no matter what. That's on the record. Alec, if you're listening to this, I'll pay you back. But, and I don't like owing him money, and I really don't like owing my brother money. Yeah. That was something that was very last minute, that we were blindsided by the fact that we didn't anticipate that $4,000. That was something that originally probably would have been built into that $15,000 loan. And so it just makes me feel so icky because I want to be paying them back and paying them back and paying them back. And so the student loan is also a barrier to me resolving that tension in our relationship. It's not actually a tension in the relationship, but
for
it
you,
feels like
yeah, I think that's pretty interesting because some people their debt payoff strategy is, what debt are you the most angry at, or what debt do you have the most like emotion surrounding, and like that's the debt you should pay off first, regardless of interest rates. And obviously it seems like you're doing kind of a mixture of these things.
Yes. So with Luke, he's my brother. He's going to be my brother forever. So he's
can't dump him.
Yes, can't dump him. He's probably, that loan is probably the one that's the most on the back burner.
Yeah.
Also because I still have to kind of let the cookie crumble and see how exactly I'm going to pay it off, because I imagine, ideally, what I think I'm going to do is when I pay off the student loan, I could totally just if I work a summer job similar to what I did in years past, that could be just summer money that I give him a huge chunk of change all at once and just zap that. Like that would be ideal. And $4,000 is a lot of money, but it is not an unreasonable amount where I couldn't just hustle to get that money very quickly and pay him very quickly.
Yes.
And with Alec, so I haven't given Luke any minimum payments yet, which we have communicated and had a whole talk about focusing on my student loan first. That's okay. That it's coming. It's just not happening right now. So that was something I had a conversation about with him. And I even asked him, do you want me to even just pay you like $10 a month or something that's a gesture? I was like, do you want the gesture of here I am paying it off. I'm thinking about it. I'm conscious of it. This is something that I consider with my other spending choices. And he said he didn't want that it was totally fine. So
That's
with
cool,
Alec,
then.
I do something where I give him $50 to $100 a month right now. And again, like I said, it's less that is really like chipping away at the debt, and more just, here's the gesture that I care that I have your money.
I'm not just going
and
to
I'm not going to just break up with you, because I think that that's where the relationship resentment starts. You know, he'd see me buying makeup, or he'd see me making other financial indulgences in myself and be like, well,
right,
you owe me $3,000.
Oh, that's so messy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't think he thinks that way. I don't think that he's resentful.
Right.
But that gesture is me saying this is something that is a priority for me, even though the student loan is taking precedence.
Even if that's more important to you than it is to him on the receiving
And totally
end.
is. Like, both Alec and Luke are in more financially comfortable situations that I am in. And they both gave me that money as if it was a gift.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which
like,
I've heard, like, if you're going to loan money to family, you should consider it a gift in case they don't pay it back. Like, in your mind, you need to think of it that way.
I mean, just the fact that Luke gave me that money in a matter of days.
Right.
Days.
He just had
the
it
fact
in
that you
hand.
have $4,000 sitting around, like, just to casually give to someone, like, he's in a comfortable enough situation to be able to do that. And I'm very lucky that I have two people in my life that were willing to do that for me.
Right. That's awesome. So you have paid off almost $5,000 in debt, which, woo, girl, get it. And you started your full-time position in August.
Yep.
Do you have a debt payoff date or a kind of idea of how much longer it's going to take you to finish paying off your student loans?
So I think with both the winter coaching position and the summer being up in the air, I have kind of an idea of how things are going to go, but I hope that they will be able to go faster. That's sort of, I think it's more variable than if I had 12 paychecks. I get paid 11 months out of the year, and so I have to kind of, like, there are some ways, fortunately, that I'm going to be able to side hustle to make more money, but I don't know how much, and I don't know how much I'm emotionally willing to do, honestly. Like, teaching's a lot of work, so I might just want to chill this summer. But say that I continue to stay consistent with the $700 per month-ish. That I am confident that will be the minimum that I can stay consistent with. Then I would be out of my student loan debt in about 2 years.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So since the beginning. So my payoff date would be August 2021.
That's awesome.
But I'm hoping that it's going to be more like a year and a half. That's my goal.
Yeah, and I think it kind of will be.
And also getting paid more next year. I mean, I go up the salary step and all of that. But I'm just trying to be very conservative
Yeah.
in it so that I don't get my hopes up and then burn out.
It's true, and like setbacks will happen, but I do feel like, especially when you get closer to that end date,
I'm gonna
it
throw money
motivates
at
you.
it. Yeah.
Yes, it motivates you so much more. Like mine ended up being like 7 months earlier than I had originally anticipated, because same as you, was being conservative, but then I did end up getting that fire behind my butt. So hopefully that will happen for you too. It happens for a lot of people in debt.
And now after I pay off the student loan, I think, like you said, I'm going to have just momentum to just throw money at Alec and Luke and just eliminate that, because it's the interest that is keeping me on that long journey with the student loan. And with them, that's just something that I can very easily, I'm not too worried. But the car, that'll be
Last probably.
Yeah. I think it's a 60-month loan, I believe, if I'm correct. So that is longer, but the car is only 5 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have a lot of time with that car. I'm not too worried.
I also am sure you will pay off that car before the 60 months, just once you have your brother and your boyfriend paid off. Because it won't take you that long to do it, considering it's such a small loan. So what percentage of your take-home pay goes towards debt each month?
That is a good question. It hovers around 25%.
Okay.
Ish.
It's a good chunk.
Yeah. So December, I think I was at 22%, because the holidays, I gave myself a little more leeway to just enjoy and not be like living that restricted life, you know.
Same. I did the same thing last year. I was looking back at my December budget that I had posted on my blog, and it was so different. Both months, December this year and last year, I had kind of like indulged more, put more money towards my gift fund than my student loans. But I was particularly looking at the ways my lifestyle inflated, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
But I was actually happy about that. You can read my blog post if you want to hear more about that.
And also, like, with my gift fund, since I started getting paid in August, it's not like I had all year to build that up. So I had to really, like, throw some money at the gift fund.
I felt the same way last year. It was a lot of doing it at the last minute. So what's been the hardest part, either a particular moment or kind of a general theme of your debt journey so far?
So, like I said, my mom was originally the one who had taken out the loan. I mean, she had communicated with me that she had done it, and I knew it was $15,000. That stuff I knew. But she's likes to be in charge. Yeah. She's the financial head of the household. And I love her, but I think that she doesn't want me to worry about the loan. She doesn't want it to be something that impacts my life or makes or detracts from my quality of life. And so she wants me to be more comfortable with the debt than I am. Because
she clearly, I mean, the fact that she went to such great lengths to have you go get your education debt-free shows how much she just wanted you to have that and not have to worry about the money.
And also, she in her mind, for her, that 6%
is good.
It's good. Like, she's like, oh yeah, you're gonna have no problem. Like, she knows that I'm responsible. Yeah. She also had a misunderstanding about teacher student loan forgiveness when she took out the loan as well. She was very much like, this isn't a lot of money to begin with, and you'll be able to get that forgiven. So she was very nonchalant about the loan, and even for a while would like evade the question when I would be like, who's the loan servicer? Like, tell me. I need to be able to log in and look at it. Yeah. And so then when I finally got that information, and again, I'm making her sound like she was being a jerk.
This is so many people's families, though. It was
protecting. Yeah, she's trying to protect my. She wants me to live comfortably. Yeah. Like anybody wants their child to live comfortably.
You don't want them to worry about anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I finally got the information about the loan after I had graduated, just logging in and seeing that $700, being like, I worked. So when I was student teaching, I didn't get paid anything, and it was the entire year of me working a full-time job, going to school every single day for the entire year. I was an unpaid teacher. That's what I was for that full year, and I worked on top of that. Yeah. So I coached a club swim team, and I made a couple $100. Like, I'd make $400 to $800 a month that way. And that, for me, at that time, was my fun spending money.
Right.
Like, oh, this allows me to go on dates and to go to the movies and things like that. And I wish that I had put $20 or something towards that principal balance at least. Like I could have used that fun spending money to really chip away at the loan. And so that was really hard, looking at that number and being like, God, I wish I had done it differently.
Yeah, and absolutely no hate towards your mom, because that is so common.
Yeah.
Just because money's such a thing that nobody wants to talk about in families. I mean, it's changing all the time.
I definitely did not get a very, even though I think she's very financially savvy. I mean, obviously people judge credit card debt, but that also, I have a lot of sympathy with her. She's dug her way out of that big time.
Yeah.
But, so even though I do think she's very financially savvy, she never really taught me very much, because she wanted to be in charge and she wanted me to not worry about it. So I felt more rich when I was a sophomore in college lifeguarding, bringing home $10K a summer of what I looked at. Obviously, I put that towards rent and I put that towards savings goals as well. But I really did feel much more like just liquid spending money.
Right, like you were just free.
Yes. And my parents never were like, you need to pay the cake. You know, they never, they pressured us to work for sure. Like, we're not going to fund your trips and your
gallivanting.
Your gallivanting, yeah. So that was difficult, but I don't blame my mom for it.
Yeah.
I don't. And it does give me that like hating interest so much that I'll never get into credit card debt. You're exactly right.
It's good to have just a healthy dose of debt that makes you allergic to it, I think. Because if I had never had any debt, who knows what horrible mistakes I might make. And so many people do. So what keeps you motivated during your debt payoff journey?
So I alluded to this a little bit before. I want to resolve that sense of tension that I feel with both Alec and Luke. And so having that as the finish line allows me to really like rip through the student loan, because all that does, it just feels like a barrier. And I also just don't like paying my past self. And I feel like, especially student teaching, I gave my heart. I contributed so much. Yeah. And obviously I learned from it, and it was a privilege for me to be able to do, but I also gave a lot of myself and did not gain very much from the education classes that I took. So the student teaching was really what I got out of the experience. Yeah. And so it just kind of sucks feeling like I was the one who worked so hard and I did so much, and now I'm paying a price for basically working for free for the school system. Yeah.
So, do you feel like paying off debt while you're in the trenches of your first year teaching is affecting your mental health either negatively or positively? Because I think that there are ways that it affects in both kind of sides of it. What do you think? How does it affect your mental health?
I actually think it's been mostly positive. It's helped me be very, very focused on my finances, more meticulously and diligently than I would have been before. Yeah. And it also makes saving very easy. Like, on the one hand, building up my emergency fund and my car fund and my travel fund and my gift fund, they do feel like, oh, like I wish I could just put that money towards the debt. Yep. But also, on the other hand, it feels like, oh, it's nice. You know, I can't use the money, but at least it's mine. Like that makes it so much easier. Like, I don't think I'm going to have a problem adjusting to rapidly saving and investing and all of that stuff, because I'm already taking such a quarter of what I make and putting it somewhere else.
Totally. And I think it goes back to this idea of like paying your past self, because when you're debt free, and even you're doing this a little bit now with your sinking funds, you have the opportunity to like fully pay for your current and future self, and that feels so good. And paying for your past self feels so bad. So bad. How has it affected you negatively, if at all?
I mean, I think it just feels like a long road, and that can be very demoralizing, especially like working those long coaching hours and making so little money, and just that makes it hard. Yeah. Although I still think it actually has been mostly positive, and that it's also kind of prevented a lot of life lifestyle inflation. With
yes.
Again, like I said before, my work money used to be my fun money, and now I have like a pretty similar amount of fun money. Like it wasn't. There wasn't this. You think that there's going to be this like I'm an adult now and I make money and I have so much freedom
and I
then you
travel
feel like,
monthly.
Yeah, and now I just feel pretty much the same. More in control of my finances, but pretty much the same as I did before. Although it is hard. I mean, I like material things. I'm a materialistic person. So I do feel guilty sometimes buying makeup or buying clothes or still enjoying those things. And because I'll be like, oh, I gotta put this towards the loan. I could have given it to Alec. Or I could have done. But I'm trying to not let the paying off debt take away from my own happiness. Like just because I'm paying off debt doesn't mean that I can't get takeout or I can't like I have to be able to enjoy now. I could get hit by a car tomorrow.
That's right.
And then I didn't enjoy I hope I don't.
That's right.
I could get hit by a car tomorrow. And so really ultimately I do align with my mom in the sense that I want to be able to live comfortably.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sacrifice that.
Yeah.
No matter how much debt I have.
I really think that we shouldn't be depriving ourselves, even if we're in debt. And I mean, I think there's a certain level of deprivation that's good. Like, you do need to cut back on some things.
Like, I'm not internationally traveling or anything.
Right. You don't want to be frivolous.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, you can't, it's not sustainable to live in a way that doesn't work for you. I think all that matters is that you question, where is it reasonable and sustainable for me to cut back, and where should I really still be putting my money as an investment in my own well-being, honestly. Yeah. I think also just having a goal of like a number of debt that you're paying down and seeing that progress visually can be so helpful for you in the rest of your life. So like to me, that was like the biggest mental health plus that I had from paying down my student loans.
I totally agree with you. I do think another thing that is kind of psychologically damaging is that logically I should be putting more towards retirement than I am.
Oh, that's a big question.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the school system that I work in has an 8% mandatory you can't not contribute 8%.
And that's not even to your pension. That's to a retirement account, correct? Yes. So your pension's an even different thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's good because a lot of people would not be saving. It's sad, but a lot of people would not be saving anything their first year in teaching. So the fact that they make you contribute to retirement is excellent. And I've also set up the employer match as well. So in total, I'm contributing around 10%, not 9%, and then the 1% match. So 10% of my income. And so I'm not utilizing the match completely, which is stupid. Like, why am I not doing that? I am utilizing the match. I did go above what the mandatory contribution is so that I can get the match. Like, I understand that the match is important, but I just can't psychologically do it. Like, I need to. And maybe if it was something where I knew my loan was going to take me 10 years or something, or even 5, I would be more willing to prioritize retirement because time, like that's a lot of time. Yeah. But because I'm going to be out of this hole hopefully in a year and a half, it shouldn't rock the boat too much.
I just want to say your school system is awesome. A, because I do think it's great that they force you to invest, because now you don't have to take the mental energy of choosing whether or not you want to be investing that. Like, that's just something that you're going to have. And it's not in the pension system, so it's not going to end up being underfunded potentially. So I think that that's wonderful. And also the fact that you have a match. I am jealous.
I know. I can't wait to really like utilize the whole thing. I really should. Yeah. I know if you're listening, you should utilize the match. But
it's personal. Yeah. It's a personal choice. And I do think it really, really depends on like how long it's going to take you to get out of debt. Because if you're in this race for a lot shorter term than many people are. And so sprinting to that finish line and not worrying about like your investments when you already do have some investments, more than most people with their 8%. Nothing wrong with that.
And it also kind of goes back to like, I could get hit by a car tomorrow. So like I might as well do what makes me feel, obviously planning for retirement's important, but
don't plan for retirement.
You'll get
travel
hit
the
by
world,
a bus.
Go into credit card debt because you could die tomorrow. And that's what I want everyone to get from this podcast.
but it does, like, I would rather just have the psychological ease of just getting through this 2-year race than making the mathematical.
It was the same for me because I was investing for a little bit during the first couple months that I was paying off debt, and I was investing, I think, a high amount, like I think 8 to 12% usually, and I was like, I know that's what I'm supposed to do. I don't want to lose out on the compound interest. The interest rate is, I'm going to make more on these investments than I'm losing in interest for my debt. But then I was like, oh, I could be out of debt like 7 months after teaching. So I'm going to freaking do that because it's a sprint, not a marathon for me.
Yep.
So.
Plus, also, like, with the 6% interest rate, that actually does justify me prioritizing the debt a little bit. It's just the match that is.
I think so, too.
Yep.
Excellent point. So, do you feel like your education was worth the amount of money you paid and are still paying back?
Student teaching, yes, definitely. Emotionally, I mean, it was just one of the best years of my entire life. I loved it. I had such a great relationship with my mentor teacher. I learned so much. And having that full year really helped me feel prepared. Like, I think if I had that 4 months or whatever, just a semester, I would have been in an even worse, more difficult situation than your first quarter teaching, which if you're a teacher, is terrible. So, yes, totally. The grad school classes that I took were not that worth it, I would say. It's actually kind of crime that a wonderful school like University of Maryland could, and a really, truly a great school, could rob us like that. I felt, it felt like robbery. The joke farce classes that we had, my English classes were phenomenal, but it was...
Yes, shout out to the English program at University of Maryland.
I'm sorry if I'm hurting your feelings.
All of the lovely professors. There are also many lovely education professors.
There are. I had some good ones. I did.
That's
but
true.
For the most part, it felt like a colossal waste of time. So I'd say no.
That's the tea.
But also, I have to get my master. I would have had to get my master's no matter what. So that made the grad school question also more worth it to me. And on a numbers level, I will take home $20K more over 5 years because of the pay raise that I get for having my master's than if I had my bachelor's. Over 5 years, I'll make $20,000 more, which is more than the loan. Now, arguably, could I be contributing more to retirement if I didn't have debt? Probably, but we're not going to go down that route.
My thing with deciding whether or not to do the master's program, because I was like, oh yeah, I'll go in and be making like $5,000 more, and then I was like, oh, if I start a year earlier though, I'm gonna make like $50,000 more. So, but it just kind of, you should consider it because I literally am getting my master's now, and it's probably way more annoying than it was to just get it done within 1 year. I have to do it over like 3 years. So, yeah. So I threw in this question because we're both English people.
Okay.
What metaphor would you use to describe your student loan debt?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question. This is a bad metaphor. I wrote opposite.
Students, cover your ears.
I wrote opposite of a head start, which is like terrible. But like, imagine being at a race and they ring the bell. What do they do to say go? They shoot the air horn.
They shoot a horn,
to go, and then you have to wait at the starting line when everybody else is running ahead. That's what it feels like. Like watching everybody else invest, watching everybody else be able to, I don't know, even just watching teachers during planning, like buying clothes. I mean, that's a whole nother
And
thing.
some of those teachers are probably in
also in debt. But yeah, totally. But watching, I was thinking about how far ahead I could be getting with my savings goals too, like, and how much more comfortably I could be living. Like, it feels like I'm just standing at the starting line for 2 years, and then, or even sometimes going backwards. And it probably is even more that feeling when you're in debt for 10 years, like just how much money you have to give away and how far behind it sets you on your goals.
I have anxiety. I will say, I completely agree with you, but it is crazy because I also know that you right now and in the long run are going to be doing so much better than so many of the people that we are peers with or know or are related to. But I do want to ask you, do you feel like in your peer group people are quote unquote ahead of you and they are like investing and making savvy choices with their money?
Psychologically, no, I'm psychologically superior. No, I'm not. But I think having, I work with a co-teacher who doesn't have debt. And so I feel like talking to her, she doesn't have the same urgency about things. So I feel like debt can really light that financial fire for you in a really good way. So not to dog on her at all, but I think that when you don't have to worry, it doesn't drive you.
Right, you don't have a reason to be good with money.
So I think it gives me that. So I don't know. It's hard because yes, I see people shopping during planning, and then I'm like, are you ahead? Or like, your financial world, the financial world of others is so deeply personal. Yeah. And even you don't even know if you're getting the truth from people when you talk about it anyway, because it's so like taboo to talk about. So I don't know. I think probably not as much as I probably am not actually as behind as I think I am.
Yeah, I agree personally as a completely objective third party here. But I definitely felt the same way as you. And it's crazy because I also am a lot more on top of my financial business than I would say the majority of people in my peer group, and even like my parents when they were my age, or that kind of thing. So it's interesting because I felt the same way where I was like, I can't wait to get investing. I really want to take advantage of that compound interest, get investing early. I need to pay off this debt. I'm behind was always a thought I had. And yet just doing what you're doing and doing the right thing and caring and just having a basic level of awareness about your finances already puts you you forward, unfortunately, because normal is broke in our world, which is very sad but true.
I do think with something like travel, that's what really gives me the like pang in my heart,
because that's the FOMO.
Because I've never, the FOMO. Because my family never traveled. We've never traveled internationally as a family. I went abroad once in college. That was my first time leaving the country. Like that has been something that we've never done. And so it's been something that I've always been so excited about.
Because it's an adult thing to do, right?
And that's something, too, that to do responsibly will require a lot of savings. So the second I'm out of debt, I mean, I do have a travel fund for things like going to Boston for Christmas so that I can go out to dinner and I can do things without without that guilt. To be able to indulge without guilt. But right now my travel fund is for domestic trips only, and it's going to stay that way for a while. So that is a hard thing. That's a hard thing to watch. And that's going to be something that's hard too when I get out of debt. Just starting that saving for travel. It's going to be both exciting and kind of frustrating at the same time.
Yeah, that is a big sacrifice. When I was getting out of debt, there was an opportunity for me to go to Paris with my brothers, and I ended up deciding not to because I just didn't totally have the money saved. Yeah. I already had the trip to Iceland after I was going to be debt-free planned. And I didn't want to take money from that to do this trip or potentially take it from my student loan payments. So I kind of decided not to, and there were other reasons as well, but that was probably the hardest sacrifice I had to make while I was getting out of debt. And I think it does have so much to do with the fact that just feels like something you should be doing, is traveling now that you're a young adult and the world is your oyster and you actually have an income.
And you're young and you physically are still able to do that, because that's not going to last forever. But also I think part of why our world is sort of broken with talking about finances is I've had plenty of people ask me to travel, and who knows, maybe in the next 2 years I could do some kind of international travel. I'm not saying that that's something that I have already decided I can't afford necessarily. But I'm not going to be going to Spain or going to expensive like Paris. That's not happening.
Multiple times a year,
right? Like that's not happening. But people have asked me to travel, and it's always so short notice that people decide to travel, and that's the hard part, because it's like you don't want to say no to your friend that's asking you to go to, I don't know, like go to Mexico or Cancun with them or whatever. But it's all like every single time somebody's asked me to travel internationally, it'll be like a month in advance. And I'm like, what the heck?
Because they're not thinking that far in the future.
Yeah.
I think that travel is like our generation's version of like getting a house with a mortgage.
Yeah.
Because that was like the thing to do once you like were a young adult and you were married or whatever. back then, whether or not it was a good decision, and for so many people it wasn't. And I think now the FOMO and the like, why aren't you doing this, is all focused towards like experiences, which is like a little bit better, but it still sucks. Like, it still sucks to feel like there's this prescribed thing that everybody else is doing and that you should be doing, or your life isn't going to be full. And that is, I mean, I do think everybody should travel, but like, that doesn't mean you have to go to Paris. You have to go to Cancun. Like, take a road trip. Yeah. Take a road trip. Or like, if you like camping, go to Denver. Maybe don't go to Denver. No, just kidding, Denver people. I've never been there. I cannot speak. So, this is a really interesting question that I've been asking a lot of people, because I really vilified debt when I was getting out of it, and I hated my debt, and I had very strong negative feelings toward my debt. But getting out of it, I was like, well, my education was totally worth that, right? So the question is, do you view debt as intrinsically bad, or intrinsically neutral, or intrinsically good, maybe? Do you think there's value in vilifying it to motivate yourself to pay it off, or do you think that that is ultimately more harmful?
I think debt is intrinsically neutral. I definitely, juice. I really do feel that way. I used to vilify it a lot more. And that's something, again, that I think my mom has learned through her journey of trying to avoid debt and then digging herself into a worse kind of debt through that. And so she really, like, when I was asking her who the loan servicer was, you know, I was anxious about it. Like, I wanted to log on and look at it, and she knew that it would upset me. And so she was dancing around the answer and all of that. But she was onto something, in that she knew that I could be happy with it, that I could be living a fulfilling, comfortable life with debt. Like, that's something that she was onto before I was. But I think that you have to have a little bit of, you need to feel icky about paying your past self. I think that that's what it is. You need to feel icky about it. Do you need to feel like deeply ashamed and like remorseful?
Or mad?
Not right. Necessarily. I think it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Like, consumer debt is a different story than,
totally.
You know, like, I think the answer is that it depends. But like with the car debt, for example, I was nervous about having a car loan. And that was something, again, that my mom was like, Sarah, $300. That is the most that you will pay. Like, that is the additional money that you would pay. Why
over 10
would
years,
you put? Why would you put that money there to a car now when you can put it in your emergency fund? When you can put it places where you can actually use the money. Having a car loan helped me. I mean, I need a car. I'm not. It annoys me sometimes in the personal finance world where they're like, take the metro. I'm like, okay, take the metro, walk 45 minutes to work. Then you find out it's a 2-hour delay. Like, I'm not doing that.
Oh, and all the people in the suburbs like bike and shit through like snow. So
I'm like,
don't even get me started.
I need a car. So the car loan was a really wise decision. And additionally, just to keep talking about the car loan a little bit more, I have my emergency savings and everything in a high yield savings account, which has a 2% interest rate.
Oh,
so
yes.
Then ultimately, over time, over that 5 years, I'm going to make in interest from the high yield savings account what I lose in interest on the car loan. So it evens out, which is good.
You had a mentor in your life who was very financially savvy, but definitely in like that old school Dave Ramsey type of way, and was like, oh yeah, you're gonna get your car with cash, right? So you actually had like that person on the other shoulder telling you to do that. So I like that you definitely weighed both options and didn't assume that a car loan was the only way to do something.
Yes. Especially with I was reading an NPR article about how the 7-year loan is really, so I have the 60 months, so that's 5 years.
Who knows? We're English teachers.
Oh crap!
We don't know how to do.
This is embarrassing.
Division.
But this is how I'm not worried about the car loan. Speaking right now, but I was reading about how the 7-year people are paying way more for cars than they did 5 years ago.
Oh,
and it's because of the popularization of the 7-year car loan. Because people will drive out of the parking lot with a car out of the dealership with a car that they would never get if they could only do a 5-year loan. That's the scary part. So I think,
and those payments, like the average car payment, even for a used car, is above $300, and for a new car, I think it's like between $400 and $500 right now. That is insane.
Yes, that is the scary part about car loans, and also you have to look into, do you want the gap insurance? So like if I got into an accident, then I wouldn't have to keep paying. Like if the car got totaled, I wouldn't have to keep paying the car loan. So I have that insurance.
That's worthwhile.
Yeah. But that was a decision that also I had to look at the car. Hopefully it won't have any major problems in the future, but I get it serviced regularly. That's another thing that I invest in. I stay with the maintenance schedule of the car. It's relatively new, so I know I could get 20 years out of this thing if I wanted to. But if you're getting a car loan for a used 2002 whatever, and in that 7 years the car is going to fall apart, like that's when it's not a good decision.
So it totally is kind of this song and dance.
Yes.
Where it's like, it needs to be reliable. Obviously, it needs to be safe. But I think so many people talk themselves into getting the new car or getting the really nice car because it's quote-unquote safe or quote-unquote reliable. When in reality, I drive a car from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That is super reliable. They're not all like that, obviously. But you don't need to buy a new car to be safe. That is just
marketing.
That is just ludicrous, and it's just you talking yourself into something that you kind of already want anyway. Yeah. And of course the insidious marketing. And that's not all victim blaming here. This is obviously a victim blaming podcast. So I love that.
But I also think that looking at debt as neutral has been allowed me to do something like buy lipstick for myself once in a while, or like even just build my emergency fund past $1,000. You know, I'm not gonna. I'm at $1,000 right now, actually, in my emergency fund, and I'm gonna keep going because I feel like an emergency fund is like the worst thing that could possibly happen is for something terrible to happen, and then for me to be like, I gave away that money. I gave away that money that I could have used in this situation, and now I'm in this hole and I acquire more debt.
Exactly.
Because so I feel like because I don't have that like Dave Ramsey like murder the debt outlook. Yeah. I'm able to take better care of myself, put myself in a more secure position.
That is so important. I feel like whenever somebody gives a number as personal finance advice, I question the shit out of them. Yeah. Because when I was first getting into this stuff, I was explaining the philosophy to my parents. I said, the first step is you get a $1,000 emergency fund. My parents have 3 dependents, a crazy mortgage, tons of bills. There is no way, and they're both self-employed with inconsistent income. $1,000 would not cover even a month if one of them lost their income. That is so different than, for me, I had a little bit over $1,000, but my expenses were so low that I was pretty comfortable with having like a lower number, and I'm like a single person living on my own with no children. Right. So you can't just give a number. And then it's also like $1,000 in the middle of Washington, D.C. versus $1,000 in like Louisiana.
Yeah,
like
I mean totally different things.
Completely. Yeah. So anytime you hear a specific number, I really encourage everybody to question that, because that means different things to everyone. And we know that. Like, we know that intrinsically. So it's really kind of up to you to determine what your strategy should be with that. Let's talk about coaching, because we both have recently taken on coaching positions this year in addition to our teaching positions. What are your honest thoughts on coaching as a side hustle while you're teaching?
So I like it a lot. It's awesome. Yeah. I like that it's kind of a reprieve in the sense that you get to see the kids in a different light, and you get to see, like I have one kid who's failing he won't be listening to this. Okay.
He's a failure.
I have one kid that's failing my class, but he's a star swimmer. And so for me to be able to see him in that that light, it makes me empathize a little bit more with, like, I get why school's not your priority right now. Like, you could be going to Olympic trials. Like, you should prioritize school a little bit more. But it helps me understand kids in a different way.
Right.
And it's also challenged my perfectionism in that I can't just slave over the nitty gritty of how should I indent this on the warm up? Like, I can't do that anymore because I don't have the time to do that. I just you have to stop at the good enough level.
I'm so glad you're learning this so early in your teaching career because it's an important lesson.
Like, having high standards for the work that you create is important, but I have to draw the line, and so I think coaching has helped me do that. It's kept me on top of my planning as well, but it is exhausting, and the fact that it's a stipend position, that coaching in general is a stipend position, is just despicable. Yeah. It makes me so angry. Yeah. Especially for me coming from a club team where those teams are so expensive that they're basically robbing people, but at least I can get a decent hourly wage. A living wage. Yeah. Yeah. So that is, it's so fun. In the beginning it was really tough because my stipend is for when I'm on the pool deck, but that doesn't include me waiting for every kid to get picked up from the bus, waiting in the room, getting on the bus with them. I'll get home sometimes 2 hours after practice has ended because of this stuff that I don't get compensated for. Yep. And I'm the only one doing. And so that I should have a timesheet. Yep. And it's never going to happen, but that's just, it's difficult for me to transition from coaching a club team where every hour that I even spent writing emails to parents or something was compensated for. Right. And that's just something that in the teaching world, unfortunately, we don't get to have those same standards that everybody promotes in the personal finance world of like knowing your worth. Know your worth. Don't do anything unpaid. Like, don't do an unpaid internship advice. Like, my whole year last year was an unpaid internship, and there would be no way that I'd be able to do what I love if I didn't do it. And I could. It's not like I could just knock on the superintendent's door and be like, "Let me negotiate this with you." It's just not happening. No. So, it's unfortunate that as teachers we have to have different standards and we have to accept more crap. It's horrible. It's literally horrible. Like, I do feel, and I just recorded a solo episode about my honest thoughts on coaching as a side hustle, and I have very similar sentiments to you, where it's like I love it so much that it kind of makes the fact that I'm not being compensated worth it. But that's also just the way, and I'm still going to be coaching, so it's not like I'm burning the system to the ground or anything. But it's just another way for them to prey on teachers. Yes, it's really despicable. It's despicable. It's absolutely despicable because, and like, why wouldn't you want to put so much more money towards arguably the most valuable part of this important program that is good for children in learning teamwork, good for them in terms of having healthy habits, but because they know that we'll take the positions anyway, because we love it so much, they underpay us. And that's what the teaching profession is in general, but it's just even more unfair with these positions. Yep. The thing with hourly positions that is more humane is that there's an off time. You know what I mean? Yes. Like, where you can switch off, and if you need to switch on again, you can clock that in. Yeah. And in teaching, that's never going to be a thing. So no, even over this winter break, I will be grading essays. I get to school an hour early every day. Like, clock hours don't mean anything because we literally need to work a little bit outside of that. And I say that as somebody who uses her time extremely efficiently during the day. So it's not like I'm dilly-dallying all day and not able to get what I need to get done finished. But yeah, it's really a shame. Really a shame. Any other thoughts you want to share? I don't think so. I think we had a good talk. Thank you so much for joining the podcast, Sarah.